If fear and anxiety weren't a factor, what would you do? I think this is an important question to ask ourselves sort of over and over because the sort of root of self sabotage is found in these two destructive forces. And they're destructive not because they are inherently bad and they exist to sort of make us feel shitty, but rather we listen to what they say and we take them as guidance instead of what they really are, which is just noise. And you get so used to making so many decisions around your life, sort of maneuvering around fear and especially avoiding things that make you anxious, that we start to actually miss the actual alignment of what actually might be really good for us. People think of self sabotage as this sort of thing where they're like, oh, I secretly don't want this for myself. I secretly don't want good things for me. But that's not really true. What's really true is that you're letting your emotions get in the way. You're letting fear and anxiety sort of pollute your reason and critical thinking. That's really what it is. And I want you to actually practice this in real life. Notice, what decisions are you making? And how are those decisions impacted by fear and anxiety? The whole point is we don't want fear and anxiety to have a seat at the table, right? So there's a lot of influences that go into making a decision, especially big decisions. So who do we have sitting at the table? We have excitement sitting at the table. We have passion. We have reason, logic. We have this sort of intuitive gut feeling, but that feeling is not completely reliable, so we can't really depend on it too thoroughly. And that's about it. That's about who we want sitting at the table of decision making in our lives. But suddenly, when you give a seat to fear and anxiety, suddenly their vote counts way more. Suddenly, anything they say when sitting at the table of discussion for making a decision is suddenly the most important opinion that's worthy of listening to. And because fear and anxiety creates such a sort of intense experience through our inner world, we start to think that for some reason they're more important to listen to, but they're not. And the only reason we do so is because we're so used to doing so. We're so used to just sort of taking the easy way out instead of letting the fear and anxiety sort of scream at us and sort of sitting through that discomfort while we make the decision that we know is good for us. We're so used to taking the easy way out, which is avoiding everything altogether. But in avoiding, you will never find the things that you're looking for. You're never going to get the most out of life because fear and avoiding may lead you to, on paper, the things you're looking for. They might lead you to that job, to that relationship, whatever it is. But there's always going to be that little voice in the back of your head. What if I wasn't so influenced by fear and anxiety? What if I led with passion? What if I led with confidence and excitement? What if I led with those things? What would my life look like? Instead of this sort of paradigm I've created where I sort of listen to anxiety, I sort of listen to passion, I sort of listen to fear, I sort of listen to passion. It's a mix of all of them, right? So it's interesting because I think what we see, especially when people look back maybe at the decisions they've made earlier in their lives, they'll say it didn't feel like the wrong decision at the time. Honestly, sometimes it feels like a logical decision we're making in the past. But when we look back at it, we see that, I may have made that decision as a result of fear having the strongest voice and opinion at the table. And that's what self sabotage is. It's not only giving a seat to fear and anxiety into the decision making table, but it's actually believing that their voice is more important than excitement, passion, confidence, and all these other positive traits. So here's a sort of experiment we can do in our lives. Because I think the most interesting things we do is when we listen to something like this, like a podcast, now let's integrate it into our lives. And forewarning, this will be uncomfortable. Most good things are uncomfortable at first. They require a level of tolerance to discomfort. That should be the baseline. If you can accept that life will be uncomfortable at times, life will force us to sort of face discomfort, then we can sort of get that out of the way. You know, we can forget about the notion that there's going to be no suffering, that there's going to be no misery, there's going to be no things that we have to really push ourselves to overcome and sit through. Once we can get over that fact, then we realize, okay, discomfort and suffering is a part of life. I've accepted it. But we can actually experience so much more good as a result of just accepting this fact and actually pushing ourselves through this fact and sort of transforming our life. Because now we're not running away from the negative in search of only positives. Now we're accepting, okay, there will be negatives. There will be negatives. I accept it. And in my accepting it, it becomes transformed. Because now there's only discomfort that you have to face. Before, there was discomfort and also the idea of discomfort. And that's a big thing with self-sabotage, is that we start to believe in ideas rather than reality. Your thoughts are not real. I don't know how many times we have to sort of say that to ourselves for it to finally be ingrained, but you have to stop listening to those destructive ideas and thoughts. Your brain doesn't know anything that you don't know intuitively. It doesn't have a secret edge. It doesn't have a secret sort of information portal where it's pulling these doomsday scenarios and sending you these warnings. It doesn't have something that you don't have. So listen to yourself. Listen to your awareness. Listen to reality. What is reality telling you? When you look at an opportunity with logic, with reason, is this a good and exciting thing? Yes, it is. Okay. So what are we waiting for? Oh, well, my anxiety kind of flares up in these sort of moments. I'm kind of scared and it might go wrong. I've never done anything like this. That is the exact crucial, critical point where it's so important to listen to excitement and passion rather than fear and anxiety. A couple things happen. Not only are you proving to yourself that you can do that, you're also showing your mind the type of person you are now. So now those sort of weird thoughts, those little thoughts are going to start to change because the brain's self-association of who you are is completely changed now. It's obviously not from one action, but these bigger sort of choices where we're choosing excitement and passion over fear and anxiety, these hold weight. They hold weight. So do the little ones. So does the taking the elevator instead of the stairs, so you have to socialize instead of avoiding talking to someone, whatever the case may be. That's a small example. But then a big example is, moving or taking that job or starting that relationship, whatever it may be. If we don't allow fear to sort of push us out of these opportunities, we'll see a radical change. And even if you're wrong, even if the opportunity wasn't what you've been waiting for, it's still not going to be what fear told you it would be. It's still not going to it's still not going to have the outcome that anxiety told you the outcome would be. Chances are you're going to learn from it. It'll probably be mediocre at worst, and the very low chance that it really sucks, you'll learn from it. And the big thing with self-sabotage is the sabotage comes as a result of not wanting to sit in discomfort. The sabotage comes as a result of avoiding anxiety. So it's not us that's self-sabotaging our life. We're simply listening to the negative emotions. We're listening to the doomsday ideas. We're listening to the negative thoughts. We're doing it all over again. It's the same thing. We know this already. We know the same sort of practice. And actually, refusing to admit that it's the same old fearful, anxiety induced thoughts that are really causing us the same problems, refusing to admit that and trying to orchestrate it into some bigger, elaborate problem is part of the issue. That's part of the root issue, actually. You should say to yourself, okay, I'm going to accept this at face value. I'm going to accept this fear and anxiety. I'm going to label it fear and anxiety. No matter how it feels, no matter what it is, I'm going to label it like that. And I'm going to see if I treat it as such, if I do the practice of sitting through the discomfort and making the decisions that I want to deep in my heart, but fear and anxiety would be the only thing stopping me, you'll see that the whole time it really was just those same thoughts. It was those same discomforts that you didn't want to sit with. But you'll feel exhilarated once you have. You'll feel amazing after you've overcome something you didn't think you could. You'll feel so good after you prove your mind wrong. And you see that self-sabotage was never the thing that was stopping you, but those same old ridiculous thoughts, those same old uncomfortable feelings.